I'm done with the insanity and it's time to go home. And I'm hoping that what I'm doing in my journey is helpful to others who also might want to go home.
I have a quote from your book. It says, no matter how much you moved along in the last life, you are back at square one in the new life, ignorant of everything once again. All the exalted knowledge we have come to believe in either books or from people we came to admire only has value in the moment. And I realize that as well. We do get a memory wipe. Tom Campbell says it's because if we remembered the spirit world and our past lives, it would just create too much confusion. We would know this world is not real, and then we wouldn't have as much skin in the game, so to speak. And that's the reason for the memory wipe. I know. Are you shaking your head? Go ahead, please respond.
Yeah, no. That's, to me, that's obvious. That's an obvious example of I don't want to deal with the truth. I want to find an answer that makes me feel good, because it's obvious that's not what it's for. And there's been so many people who, I mean, we're talking about, okay, so you've got the near-death experience, the standard one, the white light, the dead grandma, Jesus, the life review. That's 85%. That's it, and it's we can talk about that. It's a standard story, the near-death experience. But then you've got the 15% that are very different, that seem to go further than that. Most of them indicate in their experiences it's a pretty sick realm out there, that the astral realm is pretty dangerous, and that dead grandma and Jesus aren't really dead grandma and Jesus. It are these alien type beings who are scanning your mind, figuring out what's the best form to use in order to trick and deceive you and send you back here. So my concern is that anyone who's trying to explain away a realm where it's constant suffering. I mean, think of there's a lot of people out there right now. Your life is probably okay. It's not so bad. Think of what it's like right now, kid in Ukraine. Think of what a starving kid in Ethiopia is going through. Think of what someone who's in a Turkish prison is going through. Suffering. And probably they don't deserve it. And if you're going through suffering right now and you've had a real shitty, traumatic life, you don't deserve that. Really. You do not. There's nothing when you were born as a small child that indicated you need to suffer. And I'll stop here and then you can comment. One of my favorite quotes is from Richard Rose on this subject. And he says, why would an omnipotent being create a bunch of ignorant people and then torture them to make them better? It doesn't make any sense. And if we're all knowing, if we're supposed to be all knowing before we are into this realm, why do we need to come in here and suffer in order to learn more? Once you think about it, it makes no sense. Something else has to be going on. Okay, my thesis is one thesis. There could be others that are there, but it's obviously not for our benefit. Suffering is not for your benefit.
No, I agree with you on that. If we are infinite beings, so to speak, part of what Tom calls the LCS, why this need to suffer? Tom says it's because the LCS, which is like God, is imperfect. So its strategy is to break itself into billions of individual units we call souls that need to incarnate into a virtual reality simulation in order to evolve and learn. My thing with MBT is always, like Tom always says, the LCS needs to evolve or entropy exists. And I'm always saying to myself, well, if it's in a void, because the LCS kind of is in a void, it's not a mechanical system. Why does it go through entropy? And why would it need to fix that? So yeah, that's a question that I've never really been able to faithfully resolve with MBT. Do you have thoughts on that?
I have a perfect quote that also sums that up. This is from a woman, Angelika and Agnostou, and she says, in other words, souls started off as pure spiritual entities and are incarnated into matter. Why? To return home where they started from, pure again, and having gained what? Virtual life experiences useless to the spiritual plane. It's a perfect thing again to think about, like, what does a soul, what does a divine spark really truly gain from being here? This is the hard part. We have to really ask, what is really the gain that we get? Now, I know we have a belief structure, all of us do, of why it's positive for us to be in a material body, but the Cathars, right? The Cathars were very clear. This is the first group of that the Church of Rome had a Inquisition and crusade against. They crusaded against their own people in the 1200s, and they had a very specific belief. They believed the same thing. They believed that this was a realm of a reincarnation trap, and that their only purpose in life was to end the cycle. That's it. So the material world and what happened into it had like a 10% importance. 90% of all of their time was built into how to leave. And I found this, I have a whole chapter on the Cathars because it's so interesting, because why would a group of vegetarian pacifists supposedly have access to the Holy Grail? Why are they so terrifying to the Church of Rome that they need to exterminate them? And I needed to dig into this story in much more deeper terms and start asking questions like, well, what might they have known? And is there anything that they have known that's valuable to us now?
Do you think the Illuminati, the elite, the cabal know that this is a soul trap, and maybe that's why they worship Satan and they're against God? Could that be?
Well, again, as soon as you start throwing that term around, God, we're back to, well, what does that even mean? Right? We know what people want to think it means, but even the word itself, what is it really pointing to? I know, like, even the Hermeticists, they didn't like to talk. They called it Father, but they didn't even like to use that word. They kind of tried to keep it nameless. So it's almost like all the times you start directing it, you're still directing it to the demiurge, and the demiurge just has many different possible forms of which to pull in your focus, right? Do I think they know? I think more than that, they know. I think they are either beings who sold their souls at a time in the future. So once you, just like Cypher in the Matrix, he was selling his soul in that scene. Yeah. And once you sell your soul and it's gone, I think you can get it back, but it's pretty difficult. But if it's gone, you are now part of the system. You're part of this entire simulation. Therefore, if the simulation ended tomorrow, all of us who are divine sparks, we would leave, because there's nothing holding us here anymore. The control net would be gone. But everything that's not a divine spark, that's a part of the system, would just disappear. They would disintegrate with the system. So in my feeling, I think they on some level know that, and everything that they're doing is designed to keep the simulation running and keep the entire trap moving, keep the humans and the other beings plugged into the system, because they know if we unplugged, the system would end and they would end. So we see them as pure evil, but when you also start to see it as they're actually just trying to survive the only way they know how, knowing that if the system goes, they go, it starts to make sense what they're doing. And bizarrely, if we could ever find an answer that solved their issue as well as ours, we could actually get a win-win solution for everything, not just the divine sparks, but even all the evil garbage in here. We could potentially find a really good answer, but that would take somebody with a far better brain than me to come up with that.
You say that we could possibly go home. Is there some type of real home, like Jason Bashir's, that we go to? What is home for us?
I guess it's a feeling, because I don't know. If I knew for sure, I'd be there, right? But it's this feeling that I think we all of us have this. We get this. We have a nostalgia in our life for things in our past, and we kind of want to go back to them. But I think it's just symbolic for the nostalgia we have for our true home. And our true home would be similar to the experience of the void. This is where I got caught in my own experience, and where I share this because other people in the spiritual world might be confused as well. We reach this void and we feel this oneness, this place of no separation, no time, no second, and the problem is we feel like that's home. But if the whole simulation, the entire matrix, that's everything, is a copy, then the void is a copy of the true realm as well. So for me now, I'm starting to realize, even when you hit the void, you're hitting like the farthest end of the matrix, but you're still in the matrix. You're still there. It's still not what we might call the true absolute or the true oneness. There's still a deception. There's still a trick in there. And that's kind of what I've worked through the last few years, that I had to get through a spiritual ego that got created from that was elevating myself to thinking, oh, I know everything now because I've been in the void. And I had to start realizing, well, no, I maybe know more about the matrix, but home is not the matrix. So I use a simple explanation now of like, it's like you've been at a party with a lot of your friends. You've been there all night. It was good for a while. A couple guys got in a fight and some stuff happened. Now it's 3 o'clock in the morning. The people that are still there, most of them passed out. They're puking on the floor, and your friends are still trying to get you to have one more drink. Come on, have one more drink. Have one more drink. And you're like, guys, this is no fun anymore. I just want to go home. I just want to go to bed. And that's kind of how I feel it is. So I don't necessarily have to know exactly what that's going to be like per se. I just know that it exists. And the whole point of what I'm sharing with this book and my conversations now is this realization that there's something inside of us. This divine spark is so powerful. It's so special. And in fact, it is more powerful than the entire simulation. It's more powerful than the archons. It's more powerful than the demiurge. Think about that. The demiurge creator of this realm, you as a divine human spark are greater than the demiurge. The problem is we've been tricked into not seeing just how powerful we are. And if we learn how to stand in this authority and our own true totality within, nothing can stop us ever. We would be untrapped. And to me, there's, of course, a lot to do that, but it is also that simple. It's just regaining your own power. And that's what the point of my whole book is just remembering the power we have naturally.
Yeah, and your book is well written. It's easy to understand. And I like the ideas that you put forward in it. And I look forward to reading it. As I was reading it, I was like, wow, this is one of the best books I've read in a long time. So if you are interested and you want to get Howdy's book, is it on Amazon? Where do they get the book?
Yeah, there's two there. It was out as a PDF file for a while because I wanted to get it out early. So you can still get it as a PDF file ebook off my website. And it just came out as a print book like last week, actually. So now it's available. Yeah. Amazon, and it's starting to get to all the other, whether it's Barnes & Noble, whether it's Adlibris, whether all these different sites. So, you don't have to buy it at Amazon. You can buy it anywhere. If it's not there yet, just wait a week. It'll show up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, so just, we're not ending the interview, but I just want to know, just say it now. What is your YouTube channel name?
Howdy McCoskey Talks. So that's what's there. I'm on BitChute as well. Soon I'll be on Rumble and maybe a few other places. We all know the challenges we have on this platform. It's been valuable to reach people, but we also have to be ready for where we're going to go next. And I'm also in that process of where do we go next to keep this going.
Are you personally going to post on those other platforms, or do you have somebody do it for you? You are? Okay.
No, it's all done by me, yeah.
Okay. Do you have to individually go to each platform, or do you have a program that will upload it to all of them?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I haven't been to some of the new ones yet. So, I mean, I've mostly just been here, BitChute. I was on Free Voice for a while. And now that I'm looking to explore to other ones, I've got to actually learn how it runs. So I'm still in novice land, but I'll have to figure it out at some point.
Yeah, I've just stayed here. I've got a bunch of questions listed here, and I'm seeing the time running down, but it's a fascinating interview so far. I want to ask you, we talked about the near-death experience. There are many, many people who have talked about what you said. They go through the light. They see a deceased family member, a loved one, who tells them it's okay, everything is fine, don't worry. And then they proceed to go into heaven, and usually they're told, well, if they come back, it's not your time yet, and they come back. But they have this beautiful and loving experience. But that by the same token, you can find hundreds of people on YouTube talking about the near-death experience in the exact opposite way, where they've went to hell and they suffered and they were burned and it was horrible. And fortunately, they came back, but they see people down there suffering. What is your take on that? Why is it that some people have that heavenly experience and some people have the hellish experience for their near-death experience. Why is that?
Well, we've got really interesting discussions about near-death experience. I've got a few chapters about them as well. So we've got the first type, like you say, this is about 85% of the experiences, right? It includes things like a white light, a tunnel, sometimes a stairway, dead loved one. A life review is very important. The life review is one of the biggest tricks that's used against you, actually, and it's something we should talk about. And then these beings are usually saying things. It's not your time. You have to go back. You got more. You have a mission to complete. No one's ever told what their mission is. Just, oh, you have a mission to complete, right? You're never actually told what it is. Like if I was a soldier and was like, hey, we've got to take that hill over there. You got the mission to do it. It's really important. Great. What do you need me to do? I'm not telling you. That's kind of what it's like. So we've got this experience. And what makes it even more difficult is the people who have those near-death experiences, and they're 100% genuine, they tend to come back to they come back to Earth, and they become better people. They transform, they change, they're more loving, they're kinder, they're actually, they become the kind of person you want to get to know. So everything about the experience should indicate this is great. How can you have anything negative to say about it? The challenge I've got is if this is a trap, and if going to the white light is the key element, as a number of people have said over the years, is the key element of starting your reincarnation cycle back here, then you would want to have a good propaganda campaign of getting people to think that's a really good thing to do, sending them back, and in fact, fixing that person's life so that people can say, I want a life just like them. I wish I could have their life. Then we've got these other ones. So yes, some go further and they actually experience heavenly cities and experiences. They go through like learning. Yeah. Then we've got these ones that have gone through hellish experiences, really, really difficult experiences. I would be curious to ask them to see how much, for example, guilt and shame or regret were they taking with them after death to help, because I don't know enough specifically about the people who've had those kind of experiences. Was it in a sense triggered by something in their own being that was generating it or not? Then we've got the other ones who you can't really say it's hellish, but they were terrified and they were realizing that they were being manipulated. And most importantly, the ones that are very similar to the Star Trek Voyager episode Coda. And at the end of that, or the entire episode, the commander is partway between alive and dead, and an alien is pretending to be her father, trying to get her to go into the white light. And there's this constant back and forth of trying to convince her to come in the white light. And she finally says, oh, I have to agree to do it. You can't force me to go into it. And it's like there's so many reveals in this episode, but that's a huge one. And all of these ones who are on this other side of it that are not having the standard experience, they've all talked about this, that something is trying to get them to agree to whatever it is the beings want them to do. And they need to, and if they didn't agree to it, it couldn't happen. So there's always this, and we talk about contracts that seem to be presented to souls before we even come here, that a number of the things we experience are contracted in, that we don't even realize we said, yes, we're going to have this happen to us, so allow it to happen. And one of these things is to really dig into this. Is any of this true? I mean, we like to think we have all this free will and we're making choices all the time. But as soon as you say, well, this was destined to happen, or I was supposed to meet this person, or, well, that's not free will. So how much of our world is free will and how much of it is pre-planned, and who does the pre-planning? And then that takes you to the movie The Adjustment Bureau, and off we go on a giant tangent, right?
Yeah, I've got 50 questions. Let me go. While you mentioned free will, do you believe quickly that we have free will, or do you believe that it's a deterministic reality?
It's a bit of both. I now believe that, like any computer, if you're making a computer simulation, you can't have a billion options. That's just too much computing power. It makes more sense to have a limited number of options that can be slightly changed and altered. And it makes sense to have things that will loop, things that will occur over and over again. So this is a perfect example for the study, not just of your own life, That's what one of the things the recapitulation is so good for, reviewing your life to see how many things are just a loop of something else. You're just repeating over and over and over again. But history itself is just a giant repeating cycle. And that would make sense if it's a computer type realm, because you would want to have, you'd want to limit your hard drive mechanism, right? So I get the sense that we may have, like, let's say we have like 1,000 choices right now. It seems like free will. We've got 1,000 possibilities, but you and I cannot be the starting quarterback for Ohio State this Saturday. Like, it doesn't matter what we do, no matter what kind of affirmations we make, no matter what, we're not starting in the game on Saturday, So there's obviously limits to what we think of as total free will. The question is just how limited is it? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And I get the sense it's a bit smaller than we think the way we're set up now. The way we're set up now is we have got so many grooves, and we're actually being monitored by certain beings and even parasitic entities, things that are tapping into us, that are pushing us onto certain record grooves. And we can, though, say, for example, I think that's one of the things that the books with Carlos Castaneda was trying to get to, was this idea that if you can break all of these things, you can break all the contracts, all the agreements, all the things that are pushing you in certain directions, and literally break that whole system, then you would have free will. So that's why it's a tough answer. I think theoretically, yes. How many are actually truly in that space right now? Probably very, very few, even though it looks like we're not.
There's a there's a famous quote which says, "The efforts which we make to escape from our destiny only serve to lead us into it." Which makes me, I've asked, do you know who Neil Donald Walsch is? He wrote the Conversations with God trilogy.
Sure.
I asked him the same question about fate and determinism, or I should say free will and determinism. And he said it's a little bit of both as well. He said, overall, when you look at the big picture, it's deterministic. But on a minute-to-minute level, we do have a degree of free will. But like you said, we don't have unlimited options. As much as I want.
And does it really? Yeah, and does it make a difference whether I have cereal or eggs for breakfast? Like, potentially all the important things in our life, the way it's structured now, we may be making no choice at all. Like, I've done a full life recapitulation. I did one back in 2003. It took me 4.5 years. I've done a second one since then. So I've reviewed every moment of my life. And once you start reviewing your life and begin pulling out events that you didn't even remember happened to you, and you begin to get the entire structure of your life being completely different than you ever thought. And you begin to start to see how many times, I call it manipulated, that like the system just set something up to make us go a particular direction. Now, we like to use the term coincidence, and we like to make it synchronicity. We like to think, again, it's all for our benefit. Someone cares about us, and they need us to go left here because that's going to make the world a better place. Sometimes good things happen by that, but a lot of other times I've seen in my life exactly why I made a particular choice, and I could see I was manipulated into that choice externally, and that didn't help me or anyone around me. So we again, I'm not trying to give an answer here. I'm trying to get people to step back finally and just say, wait a minute, maybe I don't really know what's going on here. How can I test reality? How can I test myself to start knowing what is going on and sort of keep the ideas at bay for a while, and just openly check it out and come to your own conclusions. I don't want anyone to, have to think what I think or think what anyone else thinks. It should be what you think, but you should really be testing all the things you believe. Are these things that are truly from your own experience, or did somebody else outside of you tell you what to believe, and then you just started agreeing to it, and reality started agreeing to your agreement? You know what I mean? It's like, who chose our beliefs, and why not make sure we choose all of them ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do. I choose them myself because I realize that what I've learned in the mainstream is largely hogwash. And so I have my own beliefs about things, and I share some of them on this channel. Again, I have many questions I can ask you. What did you say you did? A life in...
Yeah, it's in the Castaneda world, it's called a recapitulation, or if you can call it a life review, but it is done completely. It's reviewing every moment of your life, every second of it.
Could you just elaborate
Completely.
briefly on how you did that?
Yeah, what I did was I first read it in the Castaneda books, and it sounded interesting. And I talked to some medicine men about it, and the ones I went to the sweat lodges with on the reserve, and they said, "Good idea, go ahead." I had no idea what to expect, but I tried to. I sort of put it together myself. I started by making a list of everybody I'd ever known, like ever met, and that took 4 or 5 months to make the list. Then I took the list and put down as many experiences as I could remember with those people. And then I sat down. In my case, I sat down in my closet most of the time. And because you want a space that's a bit enclosed, that sort of pushes your energy into you. And then it's just simply remember all the experiences as deeply as you can, not from your mind. You'll remember them first from your mind, but eventually you'll start feeling them. And at another point in time, you'll start to see the experience through your own eyes again. You'll be in the experience. Especially really important ones. You'll be there again, and you'll be seeing that what really happened is not anything like you have always remembered or thought about yourself. You see things finally, truthfully and clearly. You lose that thing that's hiding things from yourself. In the midst of it, you are regaining energy. You're releasing all the energy that you took from other people. You're getting back the energy you gave to yourself. So it's tremendously healing. It's tremendously strengthening. And over time, and it was very boring. I have to admit, it was very dull to do. Even though I learned some stuff, it was very dull. It wasn't until I was done, and I write about it in a chapter in Falling for Truth, my second book, I had an experience that revealed like a life-changing moment that I forgot. And it's like, how could I have forgotten this? And literally I relived it. And now I've come to see over the years that's even more important than that, because it's preparing us for the life review we're going to get after we die. It's one of the key elements that we are going to get is, and particularly the beings like to focus on all the things we did wrong, all the mistakes we made. And it doesn't matter. You could be the most wonderful Buddhist bodhisattva in the world. They're going to find the day that somebody dropped an apple and you didn't pick it up, and they're going to chastise you for it. And this person then they got upset about the apple and they went home and they killed their mother, and it's all your fault. And they're going to try whatever they can to throw guilt and shame at you. So I now see the life review is so important as preparation, because then we know our lives so intimately, there's nothing that they can throw at us that's going to be any kind of surprise. And even if it's something, an event of our life that wasn't so great, we can say, yeah, I went through that. I looked at it. I understand what happened. I've transformed from it. I changed from it. I built a brand new life from it. And next. Because if I've now seen from the near-death experiences I've studied, I've looked into a lot of them. If you want to go to Forever Conscious Research, boy, they do a ton of. Mark does it. He breaks them down really well there. But I've looked into so many of these on so many different channels, and it seems like the life review is really about guilt, shame, and regret. And if we carry those three emotions with us into the afterlife, almost guaranteed we're gonna get recycled back. Or you need to go back and learn love. You need to go back and learn to be a kinder person. You need to go back and see what it's like to experience this. Okay, I guess I do. I'm just not a good person. As opposed to, I'm the totality. I'm actually the completeness of everything. I'm the totality. And the mistakes that happen in my life, we have to accept them. We have to take responsibility for them. And we have to find, how did we transform ourselves from them, not lock ourselves into them. And because that's one of the key things that'll recycle us back in here, at least in my opinion.
Do you ever envision, or do you think that when your physical body expires, in other words, you die, and you go through that process of going to the transition reality, going to the light, the things you said, do you think you'll retain conscious memory and say to yourself, this is a trap, don't go for it? Like, is there a way that we can circumvent that? Do you think you'll consciously be remembering this as you get there?
I hope so. I've had one near-death experience, even though in that experience I didn't actually leave the body. I was in the body during the experience, but that showed me the non-reality of the self. is what that experience showed me, actually. There's a lot of things I think we can do to prepare ourselves, because we're going to be in a non-physical form when we die. We all know that for sure. The body will be gone. We'll be in a non-physical form. So two things can probably be helpful. One is learning lucid dreaming or out-of-body experiences, so we get used to being in a conscious state or having consciousness but not a body. So we're not confused. If you don't have a lot of preparation in that, I think that's what happens to a lot of the recently deceased. They're so confused. Then you get hit with this overwhelming love, and it's almost like a drug. Then you're confused. This massive love comes over you, and you feel so comfortable, so happy, so peaceful. You'll kind of just do anything to keep the piece going. Oh, if you just go into the tunnel, you'll keep the piece going. Great, as opposed to being able, like you say, to stay conscious and make decisions, which I think is the most important part of it. Just like here, can we step back and say, wait a minute, what's going on? Why should I do this? Why shouldn't I do this? Another researcher, his name was William Buhlman. He wrote Adventures in the Afterlife. And he had one of his last chapters being something called Setting Your Death Action Plan, which was, if you have the ability, if you know you're in a point of dying and you're in a hospital or hospice or you're at home and you've got 4 days before that, your actual death, what do you want that to be? How do you want to build your last days? It's like, it's your great opportunity. So what music do you want playing? What people do you want coming around? And for him, it was, what words of encouragement do you want said to you? Because I guess hearing is the last of the senses to go, right, before we leave the physical form. Yeah. So for me, it would be things like that. It'd be, remember your totality, remember your power. Your focus is to go home. Stay conscious. If I have something, I might want those things said to me over and over again. So I think various things like this, from doing the recapitulation, preparing in some out-of-body experiences, getting yourself ready for how you want the transition to happen. I think these are all things that will make us at least be less confused. And then if you get into that state and your decision is, actually, I really want to come back to Earth. I want to be in a body again. I want to be in, then great. That's, you've made that 100% consciously, and you can't think later, I got deceived and manipulated into that. I think that's one of the most important things, at least, is we feel that when we're in that place, we're going to make the choice that we really want to make.
Yeah, you say that it also seems that whatever body we get from reincarnation is random. The body chosen is not really indicative of how we lived previously, nor is it tied to any moral judgments based upon us. So it's a very random thing. Maybe in one life, you're not attractive whatsoever. In another life, you could be a movie star or have movie star looks. So it's all just, the cards that you're dealt.
Because that's one thing that really bothers me sometimes when I would look at some of the certain teachings of this. Like somebody comes in and they've got like some sort of physical deformity. Well, that was because in your last life, you must have been a bad person. What are you talking about? If this was really a loving place, it would be like, if you were really bad, let's give you a better opportunity to show what you can really do, and to try to, it's one of those things that used to also bother me about, the affirmation game, where they would just say, if you just do it, your affirmations enough, you'll make things come true. And if it didn't work for you, the problem is you made the mistake. You're not good enough, or you yourself are not, you haven't perfected yourself. You don't have enough faith. It can't possibly be with the system. It can't possibly be with the whole idea. The problem is you. And these are some of the things that have really bothered me about some of this stuff, as opposed to realizing the problem's not you. And you actually don't have to fix anything. There are some things that can be transformed. But most importantly, it's just things you need to see through. You don't even need to learn anything. This is one of the most important, amazing things about this trip. You don't need to learn anything. Actually, you need to unlearn all the garbage you've been taught and just get back to a clean slate again and realize you've actually already know what you need to know. It's all this other junk that's hiding you from it. You've already got what you need. Drop all the other stuff that's false, and you've got the truth just sitting right in front of you.
So do you believe that we are punished for bad behavior in our next life, or we're rewarded, or there's absolutely no connection with that?
Well, I think we would punish ourselves. if anything happens, we punish ourselves. Either we are told we've been bad, and so it would be in your best interest to make your next life worse so you can learn from it. Oh, good idea. And so we ourselves decide, yeah, more suffering, good idea. On the other hand, if someone says, I'm done with suffering, like I'm not coming back for any reason. Yeah, but remember this thing you really wanted to do, or you really wanted to marry this person. Isn't that who you really, yeah, I really loved her. It's too bad. Well, how about in the next life, we set it up that you can have that? Well, really? I can do this and I can be rich and important. Yeah, okay, well then I'll go back. So again, I think any level of deception is possible, and in some level, we're always agreeing to it, as opposed to, hey, this place is insane. And more people in the last 3 years have started to recognize everything about this place is nuts. The setup, on no matter where you look here, it's just not the way a sane creator would set it up. And I think more and more people are getting the point of like, okay, I'm done. I'm not coming back here. It doesn't matter what it is. You can't offer me enough to come back. I'd rather just sit in the void which is, I think that's what Dzogchen Buddhism is all about, right? Dzogchen Buddhism is all about practicing what they call the clear light, which is basically the light of the void. The idea being, if you get so comfortable with the void here, after you die, your natural inclination will be just go to the void. You'll avoid all this other stuff, and you'll avoid by going to the void. And I think that would give people a chance to just make some decisions, like kind of, okay, I'm not going to get deceived necessarily here immediately, and I'm going to just, what's going on, what's happening, how am I dealing with things? And to me, if that's a choice you can make, that sounds like a good one as a starting point. At least, again, you're back to trying to be clear to know what is it you really want. And that's a big one, right? It's just so many people I know have asked people this direct question, and they don't really know, what do you really want? And sometimes they'll answer something, but really, is that what you really want? Well, no, I guess not. Well, what do you really want? I don't know. So that should be the first step, is just, what is it you really want? Once you know what you really want, you know where to put your energy. If you don't know what you want, your energy is just going to scatter. Even if they're really positive ideas you have, you're never going to get much done because your energy's scattered on a whole bunch of things you don't want.
Yeah, some people are going to be very resolved in that, look, I know that the whole heaven thing is true, and we go to the afterlife and we see our loved ones, and that's fine, and then there are going to be people like me who are open to your idea. And then there are going to be people who actually embrace your idea, because there are people that say it's a soul trap. So you got, I'm in the middle, you have other people here and there, but I think it's great because, there's going to be at least several thousand people watching this video that'll be exposed to you. Many of them probably have never heard of you. And so tell my audience again where they can check you out.
Yeah, if you're popping to YouTube, you can catch, I got 300 videos up there now. Howdy McCoskey Talks. I guess Chad will probably put a link somewhere.
Yeah.
My website, which I don't really have much on there other than information about all of my books and where you can get them in sample chapters, but you can go to the terribly named Egyptian-wisdom-revealed.com, or just, Google search my name, it'll show up. And that's where you can get more information on what I've been writing and what I've been sharing, and see if any of it resonates. There's so many topics I discuss, so it's also find the topic that interests you and track through that first. Like, some people might be more interested in the ancient Egypt stuff. Some might be more interested in my sort of I won't call it attack on spirituality, but my sort of presentation of what happened after my near-death experience. Others might want to look at the expositions. Others might want to look at this. See what resonates to you, and see if something is useful. If it is, that's great.
Yeah, I'm going to go check out. You have a video about matrix scripts. I want to see what that's about. That's on your YouTube channel. You got a lot of interesting content there. So I recommend you check that out. And I'll post, the YouTube channel and website for Howdy below, just in case you don't get that whole website there. Again, thank you, Howdy, for being on. And I'm sure we'll have you on again.
Thanks, I appreciate it. This was a really good time. I think we got a lot of good discussion, and it'll be interesting to do it again.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
You too.